What he meant to the city of Montreal? A lot of alcohol sales. No, he was a character. He was an original. He was one of the last great Anglo characters in the city. They are few and far between these days, and put a smile on everybody's face. He certainly livened up proceedings wherever he went. He was like a classic. I mean, still missed, and we could use him.
En terminant, c'est avec tristesse que bien des Montréalais ont appris ce matin la mort du journaliste et politicien Nick Ofdermore. Monsieur Ofdermore, qui n'avait que 55 ans, faisait partie du paysage culturel et politique montréalais depuis plus de 25 ans. On se souviendra de lui comme d'un exemple d'intelligence, d'humour et d'intégrité.
You knew when he was walking in the bar because he'd come in the front door and people were sitting all around the bar and you'd see them all jump because he was pinching their bum as he was walking by. And if you didn't if he didn't pinch that person's bum, they were very offended. Nick, you forgot me, and he would go back, and you knew that if Nick came in, then there would be a few people coming to meet him, and all of the boys would gather to see what Nick had to say.
Yeah, he's doing it about Nick.
I know who that is.
Who?
Nick the Great. No, it's like Oprah or Madonna or Sting.
Yeah,
Nick.
Yeah, it's just Nick.
Exactly.
Yeah, they should have retired his name.
Say where the horse bit me.
You know, I was kind of Nick's financial advisor. Not that I know that much about finance, but this was because I had heard of stuff like RRSPs and he hadn't. And when I told him about it, he expressed great shock. He had no idea this could exist. And you know, the idea that the government would help you save money, he thought this is unbelievable. But then he made me his real sort of advisor, because one day I said to him, Nick, you need a will. And he said, why? You don't need a will. I'm not going to die. Yeah, I said, you need a will. If you die, you know, somebody has to know what you intend. You know, it could be complicated. So he reached into my pocket, took out a pad, and wrote out a will in favor of his daughter, and said, here, keep that. And in fact, I think I still have it, because it was outdated by a real will later on. But he said, you know, that's it. Okay, you're in charge of my will.
Bonjour. Do you speak English?
He was a reporter for the Gazette. He just knew everybody, and I was a reporter for the CBC, so you inevitably met. We all met, and we all became friendly. And some of these people have been my friends for life. Nick, certainly for his life. Sadly that he died so young, but he was definitely a man about town, a boulevardier.
Vous percevez vous-même un peu comme un délinquant?
Un délinquant, non, je dis boulevardier.
Quelle est la différence?
Je ne sais pas, délinquant, ça a l'air un peu péjoratif. Boulevardier, c'est plus gai, c'est plus fun.
I came to Montreal in 1967. I had been studying at École des Beaux-Arts in Quebec City and came down and immediately got into the business of cartooning for several newspapers, freelancing. And hanging out in the bars, I kept on hearing from people that I had to meet this well-known communist, Nick Ofdermore. And of course people began telling Nick, you got to meet this crazy cartoonist, Terry Moser, or isn't. Well, I think we were both prepared to hate each other, because, you know, we just kept hearing about each other and who the hell is this guy. Finally we did meet and we got drunk together and we became best of friends.
I met him with Jake Richler and Mordecai Richler and all that, and then we befriended and we just stayed friends.
L'homme au chapeau et au style flamboyant aimait passionnément Montréal et la politique. Il a épousé toutes les tendances, au RCM en 74, au GAM en 78 et au Parti civique en 88, après un saut sur la scène fédérale.
Alors moi, je suis consistante. Pour moi, c'est les partis politiques qui sont inconsistants.
Nick est un parti à lui tout seul, hein? Son bureau, son organisation. Et dans le fond, comme je le dis, Nick était un homme que tout le monde aimait et qu'on ne pouvait pas détester, même si on pouvait s'opposer politiquement.
Yeah, well, there was that municipal action group and something called the Democratic Alliance in the 1976 election. He kept getting involved in things. Well, he was involved in the original NCM, but then he broke with them, the Montreal Citizens Movement. he only ran for City Hall on a whim to start with, and it turned out the people who were in these seats had been in them for so long that they forgot that the election actually could involve somebody else running and winning, and that's what he did. So he took a seat, which ended up being downtown, and he liked all the intrigue.
Je suis indiscipliné, mais j'aimerais animer un débat. Je me sens mal dans les confines d'une partie bien structurée, avec une ligne politique comme ça. Pour moi, on n'a pas besoin. Dans les autres grandes villes nord-américaines, il n'y a pas de parti politique comme tel au niveau municipal.
I think from C to C, from communist to conservative, I think I did a cartoon on that, a very funny one actually, about, and he ended up saying actually who he really is Melissa's dad. He was also a shit disturber. I mean, he was a wonderful sort of rascal and loved trouble and loved intrigue, and that's why I always drew him with those big teeth, like he's really enjoying this with sort of a glint in his eye. So he did it in a very mischievous way, but in the process made it a lot of fun for a lot of people. And he attracted people. He attracted these interesting people and types, and he took a great interest in them. And as a result, you know, he just was sort of become the center, the focus of a whole activity that took place downtown Crescent Bishop, but also, you know, communication with City Hall and to a certain extent Quebec City.
Nick usually used to sit around here because they had the light run under it, and he would enjoy reading his paper over here. And then he would sort of eavesdrop on people talking and get into their conversation. That's where we put his, where the table is over here, so where we put his lazy boy, and he used to sit over here and I guess read his paper and talk to people and all that.
Qu'on devrait être notre métier, c'est de parler fort quand il faut parler fort, et surtout quand il y a beaucoup de gens qui ne parlent pas fort, qui disent rien. Alors ça, c'est une qualité d'un journaliste et un politicien.
In the process of sobering up, it's inevitable you go through a period of, frankly, you go through a very difficult period of trying to adjust to the business. If you can't hang out in the bars anymore, you can't do this, that, or the other. So I had to sort of just pull back from all of that and just disengage myself to a certain extent. And I think that really troubled Nick. But the interesting thing is later, when he became ill and had to quit smoking and that sort of thing, we used to talk on the phone a lot about the business of coming to terms with these things, alcohol and smoking and so on.
Towards the end, it wasn't sad, I wouldn't say sad time, it was fatigue, you know. You could see, like, I mean, towards the end, because he loved to be in bars and all that, and we didn't know what to do because with the radio treatment and all that, he was very uncomfortable sitting in chairs and all that. Well, he helped me in return, because I'm a bar owner and I didn't open till 2 o'clock. I had no kitchen. So I would take him to the hospital and we'd sit there together and all that. It's a big thing. I mean, even though you're tough and all that, when it comes to cancer and you know, like, it was in his lungs, then it got into his head, and he needed somebody to be with him. And I had the time, and he was a very, very good friend. So we just did it together.
I wish a couple of things had happened with Nick, but I think maybe the drinking got in the way, or his need to... Nick was not a journalist so much as he was a storyteller. And we forgave him certain things. For example, even though I did cartoons on this, his indulgence in writing about his daughter constantly. It's not a very professional thing to do as a journalist, but as a storyteller, we forgave him for doing that. So he was a storyteller about the place and time that he was in, and he did it very effectively. And I wish he'd written a few more books. He kept on saying he was writing another book, but I don't know that he was.
Nick wanted to go to New Orleans, and we were supposed to take the train, go to Chicago, pick up Melissa. She would get on the train, and we'll go by train to New Orleans. He couldn't fly at that time because he had a tumor in his head. So we said, okay, we'll do that, and we were going to set it up. We had it all set up, and we were going to do it. And then he got worse, and we had to cancel it and all that. So I said, well, after he passed away, we had the funeral and all that. I got a New Orleans band, and they played for us all the way from the church to Crescent Street and all that, and everybody walked down with him, and we had police escort and all that, the cops were really, really good to us. And that was the whole story with the New Orleans aspect of it, that he loved New Orleans and he wanted to go to Bourbon Street and all that, and he never made it.
The one thing I did was I went to St. Patrick's Cathedral, where he said he wanted the funeral to take place, and he had given them some money for something, and so that was sort of his church, to the extent that he had one. And the priest there and I were walking around, and I said, "How many seats are here in this building?" And he said, "You're not implying that you're going to need all of them, are you?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "There's 3,000. I'm sure you're not going to need them all." And I said, "Well, I think we will." And we did need them all. The balconies were filled. There were former mayors, politicians, many women who wanted to say, "I knew Nick rather well."
Everybody just loved him. Everybody reminisced about him, and I never seen so many older women, good-looking ones, that came by that were never there before.
He loved Linda all his life, and God knows he loved Melissa all his life. But he was a certain way, and I don't know that people can live with people like that. So in some particular cases, if you're not predictable, you create your own way of doing things.
Ma mère, elle était toujours en faveur de tout ce qui est paysan, pauvre et catholique. Elle m'a enseigné qu'il faut être du côté des moins forts. Puis ça, c'est une valeur simple que j'ai appris d'elle.
This explains a lot about Nick. He resented Mickey Mouse. He didn't like Mickey Mouse. He thought Mickey Mouse got too much attention. Why didn't Donald Duck get the attention that Mickey Mouse did? I mean, he would go on about this. This was important to him. He would go on and on, so he began collecting Donald Ducks. Donald Duck became a hero to Nick. He began collecting clay figures. People would bring back Donald Ducks they found for him in Hong Kong and all over the world. And he had this phenomenal collection of Donald Duck ties. And I got to admit, I've got a wonderful tie at home, a yellow tie that's filled with little Donald Ducks. And every once in a while, when there's some sort of remembrance about Nick, I wear that tie.
La majorité des Canadiens français étaient très maltraités, et puis étaient très... leurs revendications, pour moi, étaient très justes. Alors, j'ai les appuyés. Alors, plus tard, les tables ont tourné, puis je vois les revendications de la minorité anglaise sont justes, je les appuie. Pour moi, je n'ai rien changé. Je suis en faveur de la justice.
Now, by that time, he had turned. Nick always said, I used to support the French in their struggle against the English, and now I support the English in their struggle against the French because I'm in favor of the underdog. And it's just that the underdogs have changed in Quebec. So he was very passionate about all these notions and what should be done.
Un jour, j'aimerais exercer un peu de pouvoir, juste pour voir comment c'est, pour voir si vraiment ça compte.
It's not that you're a student or a scholar. It's because you are a Montrealer. You view what Montrealers view, you do what Montrealers do, and when Montreal's watching, so are you.
Right there in that alley, he was peeing in the alley at 3 in the morning. He got a ticket for, I don't know, public, whatever that would be, and he was going to fight it. But then his mother heard about it and said, "Nick, don't do that. You're going to embarrass the family." So he'd cooked this up with some lawyer friend, and he had to call the lawyer and say, "Well, I can't go ahead with this case." And the lawyer said, "Why?" He said, "Well, my mother won't let me." Nick was 50 at the time.